Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from SABA Satellite Channel. From Marib, here are tonight's top stories.
President Al-Alimi reviews security reform progress with state leadership bodies.
Prime Minister discusses cooperation with Dutch ambassador.
And Yemen condemns Iranian attacks on Saudi and Qatari oil tankers.
Welcome back. President of the Presidential Leadership Council, Dr. Rashad Al-Alimi, chaired a joint meeting with the leadership at the House of Representatives, the Shura Council, and the Consultation and Reconciliation Commission to review the latest national developments. The meeting focused on the recent escalation by the Iran-backed Houthi militia, including Iran's violation of Yemen's sovereignty through a flight linked to the Revolutionary Guard Corps that landed at Sana'a Airport. President Al-Alimi said preliminary information indicates the aircraft carried military personnel, experts, and equipment intended to strengthen Houthi capabilities. He also highlighted continued Houthi mobilization and infiltration attempts to several front lines, while praising the armed forces and security agencies for disrupting hostile operations and dismantling terrorist cells. The president stressed that the current battle is military, diplomatic, legal, and informational, calling for a unified national position to counter Houthi propaganda and strengthen state institutions. He also reviewed progress in financial and administrative reforms, including improved governance, digital transformation, and revenue management, reaffirming the government's commitment to improving public services despite ongoing challenges. The meeting concluded with renewed support for the Presidential Leadership Council, government reforms, and efforts to restore state institutions.
Member of the Presidential Leadership Council and Hadramaut Governor Salam Al-Khambashi attended the signing of a cooperation agreement in Mukalla between Hadramaut Human Development Foundation and the Charitable Heart Diseases Foundation. The agreement supports the employment of graduates from the Egyptian Fellowship Program in Cardiac and Vascular Surgery, funded by Hadramaut Human Development Foundation, to work at the first phase of the Pulse of Life Center. Al-Khambashi praised the foundation's investment in developing national human resources through education and professional training, enabling qualified specialists to serve their communities. He also commended the Charitable Heart Diseases Foundation for its role in expanding specialized cardiac care and easing the suffering of patients. Under the agreement, the project will be implemented in 2 phases. The first phase provides 1 year of operational support for 4 cardiac and vascular surgery specialists who completed the fellowship program. The second phase includes upgrading the cardiac surgery operating room at the Heart Diseases Center, along with training and qualifying medical and technical staff in cardiac surgery-related specialties. The agreement was signed by Hadramaut Human Development Foundation Executive Director Engineer Tariq Balkashahar and Charitable Heart Diseases Foundation Chairman Mohammed Basuhaib in the presence of health officials and stakeholders.
Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Shai Azzedani met in Aden with Dutch Ambassador to Yemen, Janice Saban, to discuss bilateral relations and ways to strengthen cooperation and support of Yemen's economic, humanitarian, and development priorities. The meeting reviewed the latest developments in Yemen, including the continued escalation by the Houthi militia and its impact on peace efforts, as well as the humanitarian and economic situation. Discussions also addressed what the government described as Iranian interference and violations of Yemen's sovereignty and their implications for regional and international security. Dr. Azzedani stressed the importance of sustained international support for the Yemeni government and expanding cooperation with the Netherlands in capacity building, economic recovery, and development. For her part, Ambassador Janice Saban reaffirmed the Netherlands' support for the Yemeni government and its reform program. She also emphasized her country's commitment to continuing cooperation in development and humanitarian assistance, particularly in the health, water, and economic recovery sectors.
Interior Minister Major General Ibrahim Haidan met in Aden with Dutch Ambassador to Yemen, Janet Seppen. to discuss bilateral cooperation, particularly in the security sector. Minister Haidan praised the strong ties between Yemen and the Netherlands and commended Dutch support for the Interior Ministry, especially programs aimed at training and qualifying female police officers. He expressed the ministry's aspiration to expand cooperation and increase support for capacity building initiatives to strengthen the performance of security institutions. The minister also reviewed the latest security developments and the challenges facing security agencies amid continued escalation by the Houthi militia, which he said threatens security and stability in liberated areas. Haidan stressed the need for greater international support for internally displaced people and liberated governorates, noting that continued displacement poses both humanitarian and security challenges, while accusing the Houthi militia of diverting humanitarian aid in areas under its control. For her part, Ambassador Janet Seppin reaffirmed the Netherlands' commitment to supporting Yemen's security and stability and expressed her country's readiness to expand cooperation with the Interior Ministry to strengthen the capabilities of Yemen's security institutions.
Minister of Planning and International Cooperation Dr. Afrah Zuba met in Aden with Dutch Ambassador to Yemen Janet Seppin to discuss ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation and support the government's development priorities and institutional reform agenda. The two sides reviewed cooperation in the water sector and climate change, emphasizing the importance of supporting Yemen's access to climate financing to address environmental challenges and strengthen resilience to the impacts of climate change. Discussions also focused on improving coordination between humanitarian and development efforts while reinforcing the government's leadership role to ensure greater integration and long-term sustainability. Dr. Azuba highlighted the strong bilateral relations between Yemen and the Netherlands and reaffirmed the government's commitment to expanding cooperation with development partners and directing international support in line with national priorities and reform plans. For her part, Ambassador Janet Seppin reaffirmed the Netherlands' continued support for Yemen's development and reform programs, praising the government's progress and expressing her country's commitment to maintaining close dialogue and expanding cooperation in support of Yemen's development goals.
Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates strongly condemned the Iranian attacks targeting oil tankers belonging to Saudi Arabia and Qatar while transiting the Strait of Hormuz. In a statement, the ministry said the attacks represent a serious escalation that threatens international maritime security and undermines regional and global stability. The ministry described the incident as a blatant violation of international law and the principle of freedom of navigation in international waterways, warning that it poses a direct threat to global trade routes and energy supplies. The statement accused Iran of continuing a policy of destabilization through support for armed groups, including the Houthi militia, which is said has targeted international shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden in violation of international law and relevant UN Security Council resolutions. The ministry warned of the serious consequences of continued attacks on regional and international peace and security and called on the international community, particularly the UN Security Council, to take firm and effective measures to stop repeated Iranian violations, hold those responsible accountable, and safeguard international shipping lanes. Yemen also reaffirmed its full solidarity with Saudi Arabia and Qatar, expressing support for all legitimate measures taken by both countries to protect their sovereignty, regional security, and the uninterrupted flow of global trade and energy supplies.
Information Minister Muammar al-Eryani dismissed Iranian and Houthi claims that a direct air bridge between Tehran and Sana'a is a humanitarian initiative, describing the narrative as misleading. Al-Eryani said Iran has never established air bridges to deliver humanitarian assistance, arguing that similar operations in regional conflict zones have historically been used to transport missiles, drones, explosive, military technology, and members of the Revolutionary Guard Corps. The minister said the appearance of an Iranian Revolutionary Guard representatives in Sana'a one day after the aircraft's arrival reinforces concerns over the flight's true purpose, which he said was to strengthen Iran's military and security presence and enhance Houthi capabilities rather than transport humanitarian aid. He warned that Iran could use the air bridge to replenish Houthi military equipment and expertise following recent losses, raising the risk of renewed escalation that could undermine peace efforts and threaten security in Yemen, the Red Sea, and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the Gulf of Aden as well. Al-Ariani called on the United Nations, the Security Council, and the international community to prevent the use of civilian aviation for military purposes, launch an international investigation into the flight to Sana'a, reinforce relevant UN Security Council resolutions, tighten oversight to Iranian smuggling networks, and halt what he described as continued Iranian interference in Yemen.
Minister of Public Health and Population Dr. Qasim Bahib Ahmed Tinaydin with Dr. Adham Ismail, Program Director of the Eastern Mediterranean and North Africa Regional Office of the World Health Organization, to discuss expanding technical cooperation and strengthen Yemen's health system. The meeting, attended by WHO representative to Yemen Dr. Sayed Ja'far, reviewed technical issues related to implementing health programs amid changes in international funding. Discussions focus on identifying priority activities, improving the efficiency of health interventions, maximizing available resources, and ensuring the continuity of essential healthcare services. Dr. Bahibeh said the ministry is implementing a strategic vision to build a more efficient and sustainable health system by strengthening institutional technical support and directing resources toward national priorities. He noted that the current phase requires reassessing priorities and streamlining similar functions to improve efficiency across the health sector. The minister also stressed the importance of aligning partner interventions with the ministry's long-term strategy, with great emphasis on capacity building, institutional strengthening, and sustainable solutions to the sector's challenges. For his part, Dr. Adham Ismail reaffirmed the World Health Organization's commitment to continuing technical support for Yemen's health ministry and working jointly to strengthen health programs and improve the resilience of the national health system.
Minister of Technical Education and Vocational Training Dr. Anwar Al-Mahri met in Aden with UNFPA representative to Yemen Francisco Galtieri to discuss expanding cooperation on programs that support youth and women's economic and social empowerment. The meeting reviewed UNFPA's initiative targeting young people and explored ways to strengthen vocational education and skills training to better prepare graduates for the evolving demands of the labor market. Dr. Al-Mahri stressed the importance of broadening partnerships with international organizations to develop technical education and deliver specialized training programs that meet local, regional, and international workforce needs. He praised UNFPA's continued support for youth development despite the country's ongoing challenges and reaffirmed the ministry's commitment to facilitating joint initiatives. For his part, Francisco Galtieri reaffirmed UNFPA's commitment to strengthening cooperation with the ministry and supporting programs that equip young people with the skills needed to contribute to sustainable development and their communities.
From the spread of sectarian ideology to the armed takeover of the Yemeni capital, the Houthi movement's rise has transformed Yemen's political and security landscape. This report traces the group's evolution from its ideological beginnings to the 2014 coup and examines the consequences that have fueled years of conflict and humanitarian suffering.
The story began with the group's first leader, Hussein Badruddin al-Houthi, when terrorism was still an ideological concept spreading through his lectures, known as the Malazim, which were heavily influenced by the ideas of the Iranian Revolution. From there, the first spark was ignited as the movement emerged under the cover of religious and cultural activities, concealing a political project rooted in extremism and aimed at seizing power through violence. The movement did not remain hidden behind slogans and rhetoric for long. Between 2004 and 2010, the Yemeni state fought 6 wars against the group as crisis intensified and sectarian ideology spread through a systematic effort to weaken the Yemeni state and create the conditions for its collapse. During that period, the group consolidated sectarian, racial, and ideological beliefs among its followers while training them in combat operations and hostile activities, embedding a lasting threat to Yemen. While Yemenis were focused on building a modern civil state, the militia gradually expanded its influence, benefiting from pragmatic alliances that paved the way for its most significant move. On September 21, 2014, it turned against the political process and seized control of the capital Sana'a, marking the beginning of what many consider one of the darkest periods in Yemen's modern history. Since then, Yemen has been drawn into a prolonged conflict with an emergence of the militia that has relied on betrayal, violence, and killing as its primary methods. It recruited children, planted millions of landmines, looted state institutions and resources, and deepened the suffering of Yemenis by diverting national resources to finance the war. Iran viewed the coup as an opportunity to expand its regional influence by backing the group and turning Yemen into a forward base for its broader regional project.
That was the news bulletin from SABA satellite channel from Marib. Thank you for watching and have a good time.
Have a good